Thank you for listening to ShulchanAruch.com.
What is the halacha if one cut onions with a dairy knife and then cook them in a meat pot with water or other foods? So in the previous halacha on this subject, we focused on a very similar case and already introduced much of the halachic background to the situation. The case we discussed was that one fried these onions in a meat pot, a little bit of oil to sizzle, as is very common to do when adding onions to a food, to a dish. And in such a case we said, since the onions were cut with a dairy knife that has been used to cut hot dairy in the past, therefore the onion becomes milchik, like actual milk and cheese. When you then fried it in the meat pot, due to its sharpness, it then extracts the meat taste from the pot, and now we have a classical case of mixture of meat and milk, and everything's forbidden: the spatula, the onions, the oil, the frying pan, etc. Now, what would be the halacha in the case that you didn't fry the onions in the meat pot, but you cooked them? What's the difference in terminology between fried and cooked? Cooked in halacha refers to liquids. For example, I diced an onion with a milchik knife absent-mindedly, and I threw it into my hot cholent, which has meat inside, or my hot chicken soup, or even a parv soup, a vegetable parv soup that's cooking in a meat pot. But the onions are milchik due to the milchik knife, as we've already established. What's the halacha? So in such a case, it's a little more complex than the previous scenario of frying, which is simple: everything's asur. In this case, we begin entering into the ideas of 60 times, bitul b'shishim, as well as the status of this food and whether it's defined as sharp or not, due to the onions that are in it. So let's begin with the first part. You didn't fry the onions, you cut them, you threw them in your food that's cooking in your fleshik pot. Then if the amount of onions is so minute that the food that the onions are cooking in have 60 times versus them, then everything is mutter, including even the onions. As what are you going to say? The onion has milk in it, and it's entering the milk into your soup. What if it's a cholent or a chicken soup? It's entering it into your chicken soup. There's 60 times in the chicken soup and cholent versus your onions, so all the extracted milk is nullified. So there's as if there's no milk. And in such a case, not only would the cholent and chicken soup and pot remain kosher, but even the onions themselves remain kosher, as all their absorbed milk have become nullified, so there's nothing left inside of them to become treif due to meat and milk. So rules the Taz in 96.5 and many other achreinim. And that is the halacha. Furthermore, even if you don't have 60 times versus the onion is very big, you dice 2 onions. If you have 60 times versus the blade of the dairy knife, that you do have 60 times versus inside your pot, then everything is permitted, including the onion, as we said. As the onion in and of itself is not the milk, it's what it carried from the dairy knife. So if I have 60 times versus the blade of the dairy knife, certainly I have 60 times versus all the milk that now entered through the onion into the soup. And being that in most cases you have more onion in your mixture than you do have of the size of the dairy knife, it's better to measure 60 times versus the dairy knife, its blade, and then everything will be mutter. Now, what do you do if the food does not have 60 times the onion and does not have 60 times versus the blade of the knife? Now you have actual milk taste entering your chicken soup, your cholent, or your parv food that's cooking in your fleshik pot. So in such a case, one thing's for sure: your pot's gone. Your pot is treif, it has to be kosher, as your pot is absorbing fresh milk taste. The meat pot is absorbing milk. However, what about the food? So it's already a little complex. If your food is chicken, meat cholent, chicken soup, then it's treif, as you have unnullified milk taste in it, meat taste in it, they mix and they become treif. If, however, you're cooking parv, like a parv vegetable soup, and you threw in this milchik cut onion, and there isn't 60 times, as we stated, versus the onion or the blade, then the question is, what's the status of this soup? As we know, it has some milk taste in it, but does it have meat taste? So you say, but the pot's fleshik. Well, it depends. If the pot is ben yomei, was used with hot meat within the past 24 hours, then it gives off fresh meat taste into your soup, and then your soup's treif. That's once again, you have fresh meat taste, meaning fresh milk taste due to the onions, and everything's treif. If your pot was not used for hot meat within the past 24 hours, then the only way that fresh meat taste can enter into your soup is if we define this soup as charif due to the onions. As a charif food can extract and enhance even non-ben yomei taste. And the determining factor of this is, as the Ramah rules in chapter 95.2, we go by the majority ingredient. If majority of this soup is the non-charif ingredient, it's not, the onions are not the majority here, which is usually the case, then the food will remain mutter. If, however, the onions are in the majority, then once again it extracts and enhances the meat taste in the pot and everything becomes treif. So to summarize this quite complex subject, you didn't fry the onions first, you cut them with the milk knife, you threw them into your soup. If you don't have 60 times versus these onions inside that soup are chulent, even if the soup is parav, everything is treif, unless the soup is parav, the pot is not ben yamin, and the onions are a minority ingredient. All this is in the event that you did not fry the onion first. If wherever you first fried the onions at the fleshik pot and then you added them to whatever food you added them to, then since, as we already explained, the onions become treif, with every food you put it into, whether milchik, fleshik, or parav, now requires 60 times versus all those onions. You have to measure versus the onions and not versus the blade anymore, as the onions already became treif, and if you don't have 60 times, everything is forbidden. So once again, we see here a number of cases of onion woes and charif woes that can be created in a kosher kitchen. And therefore, as we've already stated, the advice is always cut charif with a parav knife. And that's how you avoid headaches for yourself and headaches for the rabbi, who may receive this question.
Thank you for listening to ShulchanAruchHarav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at ShulchanAruchHarav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.